Good morning. My name is Don Michaelman, and I want to welcome you to the November 13th, 2025 public hearing of the City of Prescott Planning Commission. Before we start, would ask that people check their phones and see if they're on mute or vibrate or whatever you'd like to have them on, please. I'd like to have the commission members introduce themselves and start off with Susan.
Good morning. I'm Susan Graham.
Good morning, Tom Davis.
Good morning, Jim Whiting.
Tom Riley.
Morning, Tom Hutchison.
Good morning, Jim Klaczewski.
There you go, Jim. This is a open public hearing and is being videotaped by the city. The proceedings are being televised by representatives of the public media, the public, local cable and/or radio stations, and may also be rebroadcast. The number of commissioners present is 7. It will require a majority vote of those present to pass a motion. Members of the public, when called upon, are required to state their name and address and for the record so that we may know who is speaking and be able to contact them at a later date if necessary. Would like to welcome Mayor Good attending, Council Members Cantelmi and Gambogi on that. We will validate your parking afterwards if that's okay. Before we start, Alex, would you like to introduce our new intern?
Yes, I would love to. We have Susanna Bond here with us. She's our new assistant planner, and she'll be working with us here for all of our boards and commission meetings, so you'll see her around.
Thank you. First thing on the agenda is the minutes from the September 25th, 2025 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. Are there any corrections? If no corrections, is there a motion concerning the minutes?
Mr. Chairman,
Tom
Riley here. I move to approve the minutes as presented.
we have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Jim Klaczewski, I'll second it.
All right, a motion and second. Any further discussion? If not, Jacob, would you want to call the roll?
Commissioner Whiting?
Up.
Commissioner Klaczewski?
Approve.
Commissioner Hutchison?
Approve.
Commissioner Graham?
Approve.
Commissioner Davis?
Approve.
Vice Chair Riley?
Approve.
Chair Michaelman?
Approve. Next on the agenda is LDC 25-001, revisions to the City of Prescott Land Development Code consistent with A.R.S. 9-500.49. Alex.
Thank you very much. Good morning, all commissioners. Welcome. Thanks for having me. My name is Alex Bramlett. I'm the planning manager with community development, and we're here this morning to discuss the adopted revisions to Arizona Revised Statutes 9-500.49, which has impacts to our land development code, and those are the changes we're going to be running through today. So just to start out to provide some framework, the House Bill 2447 is what changed Arizona A.R.S. I'm just going to go 9-500.49. And we're going to just focus on the top part. The legislation in total is only a page, but we're going to focus on just the first half of it this morning. It's what impacts our land development code. And so under Section A is notwithstanding any other law, the legislative body of a city or town, it went from may to shall, where this used to be optional. Now it's being a requirement by ordinance. Do the following. There's 2 things. Firstly, authorize administrative personnel to review and approve site plans, development plans, land divisions, lot line adjustments, lot ties, preliminary plats, final plats, and plat amendments without a public hearing. And the second piece is to authorize administrative personnel to review and approve design review plans based on objective standards without a public hearing. So we're just going to focus on Section A1 first, and that is, again, the full thing, notwithstanding any other law, the legislative body of a city or town now shall, by ordinance, do the following: authorize administrative personnel to review and approve site plans, development plans, land divisions, lot ties, line adjustments, preliminary plats, final plats, and plat amendments without a public hearing. So based on this change, these are all the sections in our land development code that have been updated to comply with the statute. It's been attached in the packet. I'm happy to run through anything particular. My plan is to these are the overall sections that are being impacted. Then I'm going to highlight a couple key elements and provide an example, and then we can kind of go into discussion from there, and I can pull it up and we can chat through further. So bigger picture, Article 7, the subdivision land split design standards has been updated. Article 8, the review bodies has been updated. Article 9, administration and procedures has been updated. And Article 11, the definitions. So Article 8, Section 823B is the reviewing bodies for Planning and Zoning Commission, the powers and duties and things that you can recommend. So this is current LDC with the strike through. So with this new legislative change, we've eliminated preliminary plats, final plats, site plan review, and then the waivers of standards of Article 7 from needing to go forward to planning and zoning to make the recommendation ultimately to City Council. Our land development code section, there's a table showing things that need a public hearing. And so the first thing that is strike through is PAD master plan. It's been added a little bit later, but just a quick plug. Anything that needs a planned area development or PAD is still going to go through the normal process. It's a deviation from our normal standards, and so that will still need Planning and Zoning Commission to review and recommend a motion to ultimately City Council, since they are going to be deviating from our normal standards. So that's in there still, but we've removed site plans and subdivisions needing a public hearing. So here's one sample of the changes that we've made. Again, I can pull it up and we can walk through more if that's helpful. This is the preliminary plat procedures section in the land development code. Towards the end, currently it talks about the community development director, and that they are reviewing the preliminary plat application based on the technical review committee, which is the various different departments that are reviewing the preliminary plat, fire, engineering, etc. And we're making that staff report. This is the current process that then goes to Planning and Zoning Commission, where you all review and make the recommendation. And then the final step is City Council. So this is the current language we have. And here's a sample of the changes that we have made to comply with the legislation. So we've updated the Community Development Director section so that they are still reviewing the preliminary plat application recommendation from the Technical Review Committee. Again, all of the different departments reviewing their various elements of the plat. And they are preparing an approval with conditions or a denial of the plat application, the final stage. And we're eliminating to comply the Planning and Zoning and City Council as part of the step for, in this case, a preliminary plat. So it was just a sample. I can pull up more. I wanted to just pause and talk about any other changes, questions on specifically A1. And then once we're good to go, we'll dive into A2 and talk about the next things.
Any questions for Alex?
Yeah, Alex, a couple things. Can you tell us what the underlying rationale for the state legislature to make this change? Why did they do this?
Because they can.
You know, I don't know. It used to be may, so optional as in you can have administrative. So based on it churning to shall and making it mandatory, seems like they want these different elements to be reviewed administratively. The why, I do not know.
The second one, and maybe this is a legal question. It seems to me that the Planning and Zoning Commission represents the public. So we are here representing the public at large. And it feels like this is a hit to transparency. It seems like we've eliminated the public from a lot of the nitty-gritty of what's going on. And I'm wondering if that was considered.
I don't know the history of this. My sense is there was probably an angry constituent down in the valley who lobbied his or her legislative representative to come up with this. To the extent, I think you're making a statement, you're not really asking a question. Sure, seems like that. Regardless, you've got a state body that's telling you what the new rules and regulations are. And here we are.
Yeah, so that begs the question why we're here.
Tom?
Yeah, I have a question.
Sir.
Maybe this is upcoming in the next part that we're going to talk about, but the relationship between the House bill and the Arizona revised statute and how the historic portion mixes into this. I'm not quite understanding the legal language behind that. It doesn't seem to make sense to me, but perhaps somebody here smarter than me, which is everybody, can help me with that.
Historic language meaning specific to historic, like preservation, or the history of the language?
Well, it's not so much the history of the language, just the relationship and how this is, how House Bill 2928 impacts. And one of the things in there is that in the House bill, it says that this section does not apply to any of the following, including historical areas of historical stuff and different things like that. But this House bill is not part of the A.R.S., the revised statute.
Yes, it is, and it impacts more section A2. So I'm going to back up here. A is the overarching section that went from may to shall. There's then two subsections. Firstly, being that administratively we're looking at plats, etc. The second one being that administratively we're reviewing design review plans with objective standards without a public hearing. So the second one is going to play more into that his exclusion of the historic preservation, and I'll get there in just a moment. If we can dive into section 2 if that's okay.
I can be patient.
Okay, thanks. Are there any other questions on kind of this first portion related to all things plats?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question, clarification, really, Alex, and I'm referring to, with my notes here, section 9.10.6D master plan. How does that master plan, is that a pre-approved master plan by this body, or is it something that the staff requires as a, sort of an accessory to the application?
So it depends. The master plan is largely going to be associated with the planned area development. If there is a PAD, that is again kind of leaning towards the deviation of our standards, and that is what's going to still go through the P&Z and council process. And then once the PAD is approved with a master plan, when we get preliminary plots in and the final plots, if they're in conformance, they're going to be going through the administrative process.
So that's what I thought. That this master plan referred to earlier in the text is the same as that which would be submitted with a PAD.
Correct.
Okay.
Feeling good to continue on? Good. Okay. So back again to House Bill 2447. Again, just we're looking at the upper portion of the text, but we're going to focus on A2 this time. Again, it switched from may to shall authorize administrative personnel to review and approve design review plans based on objective standards without a public hearing. Here it is just in the text. Again, we're just focusing on design review plans based on objective standards without a public hearing. To your point, Mr. Riley, the first thing that you think about is when you're looking at objective standards and design review plans, a lot of what we review in terms of design review is within historic preservation. So House Bill 2928 also was established. The green text is new, and I'll show it to you as a whole in just a moment, but it's saying that this section, all of A that we're going over, does not apply to any of the following: land, an area that is designated a district of historical significance, anything that's on a national register of historic places, and designated historic by a local government. So in total, this is looking at all 9-500.49. So again, A, it's at the top. Subsection 1 and 2 are that's where we're really focusing, and then House Bill 2928 plays in down at D, saying that all of the above is exempt the historic preservation is exempt from this. So when we're thinking about design review plans, it's not looking at anything historic preservation related. That's going to stay through its entire normal process. At that point, we then looked at our code and thought, what do we look at that requires a design review that maybe doesn't have quite objective standards and needs a public hearing? And the only thing we found in our current code is the existing special use permit SUP requirements specifically triggered within the downtown business district. So this is not impacting normal SUP processes that you're going to see. A cell tower will still come through planning and zoning. It's just there are only there's criteria in the non-residential districts for downtown business that trigger an SUP, and that's what we're looking at. So here is the LDC text. Again, it's under non-residential districts, so the downtown business zoning district is where SUPs can be triggered based on the size of a structure, the expansion of a structure, and then the cost. If the value increases over 50%, they need a special use permit. Our current code requires them at that point to go to Prescott Preservation Commission, then to Planning and Zoning Commission, and then to City Council. So again, this is the only process we found that has design review with not quite objective standards that triggers a public hearing. So we are proposing to eliminate the need for a special use permit in the downtown business zoning district. Continuing on with the LDC, these are the compatibility review guidelines that we're looking at when that SUP was triggered, and just for any projects in the downtown business zoning district. So the criteria are going to stay. We updated them to be more objective. The state provided some guidelines on how to do that. So we're still reviewing these through our building permit process. It just won't trigger the PPC, P&Z, and City Council public hearings so that we can comply with the statute. And then just to make sure we were being consistent, the 9.9 is the special use permits section in LDC, and there are only two small changes. The first being applicability. It references the need, the special use permits in downtown business needing PPC and all of those elements that we've removed, so we deleted that. And then the other section is 994. E was review for PPC for specifically projects in downtown business. Since we removed that, we just updated that section, but the rest of the SUP section is not being modified.
Tom, do you have a question?
So if I'm understanding you correctly, the special use permit that was applied for the old territorial courthouse, that would have been handled by staff, and that wouldn't come in front of us anymore.
It would have still gone through the historic preservation PPC for the design review, but it did that, and then it did an SUP, which also then needed PPC, P&Z, and council, and then building permit. So that SUP section that gets brought through you all would not have occurred.
So the design review what you're saying then is that in the historic district, design review will still be handled through the Preservation Commission?
Yes.
Okay, isn't that a public hearing?
Yes, but that's what House Bill 2928 is exempting. So here's the whole 9,500,49. So A is where it's saying we shall do these things and require authorized administrative personnel to review and approve design plans without a public hearing. Then D was added in with House Bill 2928, exempting historic preservation essentially from A2 and other things. So it's saying we have to authorize administrative personnel to review and approve design review plans except for in historic districts.
The design review portion of it is the only thing that the commission would Preservation Commission would take a look at. We wouldn't see that and the council wouldn't see that. Is that correct?
Correct. So the old City Hall project, as an example, they started with PPC to review because they were in the Courthouse Plaza Local Preservation District. That required them to get PPC approval, all exempt from, they have to do that no matter what. What our current process is that then they get the PPC approval, then they needed to get the SUP approval, which went back through PPC for a courtesy review, then to Planning and Zoning Commission, then to City Council. And then now they're in the building permit stage process. So if this were in effect at that time, they would still get that PPC approval, and then they just would not have needed the SUP to go back through.
Clear as mud. No, I understand what you're saying. I guess I'm just trying to follow the logic through it, and I need to abandon logic when I'm looking at legislation. So, there's that portion of it. So what about the hotel? Now the hotel on Whiskey Row, that one has to go through right now by our current standards would go through an SUP, correct? But now, once this is adopted, if they wait, they don't have to do that.
Correct.
Also, with that hotel, the Preservation Commission said no, and council said yay, but good for council, by the way. The question comes in then is that in that kind of a situation where the Preservation Commission says no, is that it? I mean,
the appeal process that's built into the review of a preservation decision, like the hotel, will continue to exist. So you can appeal the denial back to the council for a final determination. That's how the hotel came to the council. Had the Preservation Commission approved it, right, it would have been done. It didn't. There was a right to an appeal. That appeal was made. So that appeal will continue to remain. But there's no automatic review from the council from a Preservation Commission meeting unless there's an appeal.
That gives them quite a bit of power, doesn't it?
For example,
Yes.
with the old City Hall, the PPC approved it, and it didn't go to council for design review, and then the SUP was brought through. But the actual design component of it with PPC was approved, and that is our normal process. In a local district, if you have a project, you bring it to PPC. If they approve, you move on. The hotel on Whiskey Row certainly had more layers. But normally it just gets approved or denied, and I don't know if they really typically deny other than this unique circumstance, which does add some confusion. But typically it ends at PPC.
So if I'm understanding it correctly, if the Preservation Commission says no to something, and the SUP, it says no to the design criteria, staff or administration can't overrule that. Is that correct?
Yes.
So when they say no, it's no, and the only alternative that somebody would have then is to go back through the appeal process.
Right.
Okay. So what happens if council ultimately says, no, we're not going to do this? What is the ramifications of telling the state legislature no?
Well, to my understanding, this is to approve an ordinance, and the ordinance itself will change the text in our land development code as was shown on Exhibit A. If it's not approved, I do believe then the LDC just text doesn't change, but we still need to comply with the state statute. But Matt can.
So in other words, we have to.
I'm going to let Matt answer that one.
Well, yeah, I mean, then you'll just be non-compliance. And then whatever enforcement mechanisms come into that. Our recommendation would be that, you follow the law. Whether or not the council chooses not to adopt these text code amendments or not, that get us compliant. I'm not seeing sort of a charter argument that overrules the state statute. So I think this is kind of one of those matters of statewide concern statutes that all towns and cities are dealing with right now, trying to figure out how to get compliant, and it's kind of the law.
Thank you.
Are there other questions about?
Yeah, Alex, just your view on this. Is this an efficiency improvement for the Community Development Department?
I think it's going to go through our normal process. We're already reviewing it. When a pre-plat, for example, is submitted, it's through our portal. All the departments that need to review, their workflows are opened. We're reviewing it. So it will process-wise be relatively the same, just in terms of everyone's reviewing and approving, and then we'll have extra steps at the end to have our checks and balances in place to make sure everything is good to go, given that it's not going to P&Z and council anymore.
So basically, that means that we're cutting out the NIMBY portion.
In other words, the public doesn't have the opportunity to have input.
So I can't come in here and just bitch about it because I want to bitch about it.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Jim Kloszewski. So, based on Section D, which exempts anything of historical significance, there's nothing we can change in our land development code that might give us a little bit more power under that Section D, if that's exempt from the bill?
I'm trying to think of how do you, like, in what regard of changing LDC, because that is just really specific to the historic preservation piece, just making it so that the administrative approval does not apply to that, which is already our current process in bringing it to PPC.
So then what we're saying is that Section D really applies to the Preservation Society Commission as far as they can make those decisions, but we still can't do anything that within our land development code or city ordinances, we can't do anything to gain a little bit more control.
There's no exception in terms of like a plat should go, except for in the case of a planned area development where they're asking for a relaxation of our code. That is still where we'll bring it through to you all. Further, if there's a development agreement, there's other larger things at play that will be part of it as well. But a typical standard, pre-plat or final plat, it's going to be administrative.
It seems to me that the whole thing here is not so much that we get to review it, because, so what? 7 of us or the council and everything doesn't get to review some of these things. The big issue here is that the public doesn't need to be made aware of these things that they're going on. So that's not going to happen any longer. And I'm thinking that that's both a blessing and a curse, quite frankly. But it seems to me that I guess I'm wondering, the public probably doesn't know about this yet. And I'm thinking the STDs and, those kinds of political action groups are going to jump up and down. And I mean, you're basically taking not you, of course, but the state has basically taken the rug out from underneath them in terms of having to inform my neighbor that there's going to be a subdivision going next to me. What about those kinds of things? I mean, typically with a subdivision or something like that, we have something in the code where you have to notify zoning changes and things like that. We have to notify people within a certain distance of that particular property. That's not going away, is it?
Well, in terms of the zoning change, any kind of text or map amendment, that's not part of this at all. It's still going to be, I'll go back here, hang on. So just to kind of recap on this portion for planning and zoning, that the SUP, the normal kind of SUP process is staying the same. Zoning map and text amendments will still be brought through P&Z and council. Any general plan, area plan, or neighborhood plans will still be brought through, and PAD. So all of those will still be current process, normal process, and not be changing. So with a rezone, we'll still be notifying to the criteria we have set and requirements in that capacity.
This is going to make life interesting. Thank you.
Is there any other?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. Just coming to mind with this discussion is that is there a violation of the law? Whereas, or do we want to have this discretion of having the community development director refer this to the planning commission? Let's say there's a complex final plat or preliminary plat or site plan review, is it significant enough where the community development director has the discretion to move this up to a public hearing?
I
Want me to address that? That would
Sure,
be in
please.
violation of the law. Yes. So all the big projects, the big issues you're concerned about will still go through the normal process. As Alex said, rezonings, master plan, or through a development agreement or through a PAD. Those big issues continue to go through the normal process. It's the things you see there, final plats, preliminary plats, site plan reviews. And I know Alex didn't say this because she doesn't want to seem like it's coming from her. It's not. But clearly the legislator's intent is to reduce public input because there's a perception that housing prices, affordable housing are all being reduced by the NIMBYism that you said. So this is clearly the intent of the ordinance or of the statute. And so we're just in a situation where we've been ordered to do this and so we do what the state says. Does that answer your question?
Joe, tell me again, what was the intent of this legislation?
The intent is to increase the availability of housing. Yeah,
Make it easier to build.
make it easier to build.
Oh, and just for the record, Alex, I didn't think you came up with this.
Thank you. All right. That is what I had to cover. So I want to make sure everyone feels.
Connie.
Hello, members. Jim, Tom, Don, Jim, Tom, and Susan. I just wanted to encourage you all to, by the way, Connie can tell me, City Council. And Tom, I'm sure you're aware of this. We have a very large lobbying group in the state of Arizona. It's called Arizona Home Builders. We've been going down to the legislature. I've been kind of tuning in and off and on this very subject. Write a letter. You have to write. We've got Quan, Wynn, Selena Bliss, and Fincham. Write letters of opposition. You're on a legitimate commission. Scottsdale's getting involved in this. Many neighborhoods are getting together to try to overturn this or at least modify it. Weigh in on it. You have every right to do that. So contact your legislatures and let them know. And Arizona Home Builders, let them know how it affects us here. Thank you.
I guess I'm not so sure it's not a good thing. You know, I think, like I said, it's both a blessing and a curse. But I'm not so sure. I'd like to see how this plays out for a little while, just to see what happens. You know, and watching some of these groups come off the rails would be kind of interesting. So that's given that. Are you ready for a motion?
Any other questions for Alex? If not, is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move to recommend approval of the revisions to the city's land development code consistent with Arizona Revised Statutes 9-500.49 as shown in Exhibit A.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
James Whiting, second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I have one item on this. I think the part of this that bothers me the most is the state legislature seems to have the thought that they should tell the cities and counties what they should do and that we aren't smart enough to make our own decisions. Now, the legislature gets its hackles up when the federal government tells them what to do, but they feel they can tell us what to do. So that's just my personal thing. And Jacob, would you call the roll?
Commissioner Whiting,
Approve.
Commissioner Klazewski,
Approve.
Commissioner Hutchison,
I disapprove.
Commissioner Graham,
Reluctantly approve.
Commissioner Davis,
Approve.
Vice Chair Riley,
Approve.
Chair Michaelman.
I'm forced to approve.
You know, just from the note, I want to tell you, Mr. Chairman, nothing has changed. The Arizona legislature has been telling cities and towns what to do since the Arizona legislature was in first enforced. This has changed. There's nothing new about this.
It doesn't mean we have to like it.
We never have.
Before we adjourn, I believe this is Mayor Good and Councilman Cantome's last session with us. And I see smiles on their face. I don't know why, but yeah. But I personally want to thank you for your time and effort that you have put in your positions over the years here on that. I know it's not an easy thing, and I now understand that you can now have your phone published in the public on that to get phone calls, but thank you for your service on that. Meeting adjourned.